Okay, this chapter is called Migrations and Diaspora of Homo. We have already seen some map of migration out of Africa and colonizing of various continents across the globe, and speciation in terms of the Homo lineages appearing in different parts of the globe. There are many high-level questions that don't really get answered here, in the sense of the evidences that are all collected so far, and they continue to be collected, and whether they give a robust scientific result that everybody agrees upon. And obviously that's not the case, especially because this is still an evolving field, and it has multiple hypotheses. Usually when there are more than there is more than one hypothesis for anything, it just means we don't have a consensus agreed upon answer. So I'll start with this as an example of how things are still debated. So this is about peopling of the Americas, which is a specific case because it's geographically so far removed. So in the past, if there have been species found on this American continents, then you have to explain how they got there and when they got there and so on. So the datelines keep changing and the debate about how they got there continues. So I'll then come back to other Homo lineages and some of the debates that are there. The book, this chapter is very long in the book, and I feel some wind, so hopefully the whistling sound is not too strong. There are hundreds of references in the book. I'm just going to summarize it because the book goes region by region, continent by continent, to debate the issues of who got there, when they got there, what are the evidences we have, and what are the uncertainties in terms of the dating and the drivers of migrations to that place, sea level change, warming, drying, whatever else it is, and of associated ecological changes, megafauna, flora, and so on and so forth. So let's look at this just to set a context. Based on these findings, archaeologists propose a number of potential alternatives regarding the peopling of the Americas. So that tells you that this is not something that is final yet. Let me correct that. Stratigraphy should be one word. I always have this trouble of arranging beforehand. Sorry about that. So problems exist with the stratigraphic integrity and dating of pre-Clovis sites. This is geographical, geological dating based on the geological evidences. Early North American and Beringian sites exist, but we have yet to find them or accept their early antiquity. So I'll come back to this at the end of the chapter again, but I'm just giving you a sense of how the controversies exist throughout this discussion. Initial migration into the Americas occurred earlier or via a different route or routes than terrestrial migration across Beringia, and via the ice-free corridor. For a discussion of coastal migration in the Americas, see this paper. Okay, so these scenarios are, in addition to numerous aboriginal oral traditions that depict an origin story in the New World, which is the Western world. However, few archaeologists, even multi-regional hypothesis advocates, have delved into this arena. So a lot of things to be learned there yet. Even within the domain of recovered archaeological finds in the Americas, there is a disagreement over the age of pre-Clovis archaeological sites. So Clovis are the ones that are dated to close to the end of the last glacial maximum, so somewhere in the range of 20 to 12,000 years, which is much older than what was previously known. However, should more early sites be uncovered and validated with repeated independent dating, it will become increasingly difficult to dismiss some of the narratives that exist. Okay, so what are the various factors that play into this? Other than the idea that multiple Homo lineages are found in multiple places, so whether they all originated from one place like Africa and migrated out and then got genetically drifted because of the geographical separation or bottlenecks that we will see, or because of the various climate conditions in which they evolved and so on. The idea is that they if you go before Neanderthals and sapiens, it isn't clear who may have interbred, and it is unlikely that something like Homo erectus, for example, independently evolved in multiple places, considering there are significant climate differences, weather differences, and so on. So why should similar species evolve across multiple sites with such different climates? That remains an issue. And in terms of connecting them, looking at the geographical separation of the Americas compared to the linkages you can find here in Africa, Eurasia, into Australia, especially when sea level changes. So this is the last glacial maximum Pleistocene 21,000 years ago, and it is showing sea level at minus 121.20 meters compared to today's sea level, basically because you had built up glaciers over much of northern hemispheres, especially coming down here in North America and Europe, and of course glaciations over Himalayas and so on. So you can see the tremendous difference you can see in the exposed land. Shelf areas changed, of course, because when you take out 120 meters of ocean, you're going to change the coastlines. So obviously tremendous differences in the coastlines everywhere, but this would have been one of the major routes leading to the colonization of these parts, especially Indonesia, all the way into Australia. And many major questions remain as to how people have crossed down into South America, when they did it, what kind of megafauna crossed in, and so I'm mixing timescales. These are much more recent timescales, so we have to go back to early hominins, which is millions of years before that. But these questions, how they got there, why they left Africa, whether it was just a curiosity of a species that was getting more cognitively intelligent, or whether it was climate driven, and when they went somewhere like Australia or South America, did the megafauna disappear because they were hunting them, or whether it was because climate change killed them, or whether humans, even though not hunting, implicitly affected the extinction by changing the ecology, the habitats and so on, or whether new diseases arose because of climate change, or human arrival, hominin arrival, and so on and so forth. So large number of uncertainties remain in the interpretations, but we have to go through the best evidence we have and try to understand when and where these migrations and diaspora happened, and then come back and see in the next chapter how climate may have been a driver, especially in the last 130,000 years ago, where the modern human being evolved and the remaining relatives like Neanderthals and Floresiensis and so on disappeared. Okay, so I will leave this here, but come back and look at some more issues that keep arising along the way, in addition to what we actually know. So we just don't want to talk about controversies or uncertainties, but we also want to know what is already established with all the evidences that have been collected along the way. Okay, so the sound, I hope, is still okay, but I'll check and make sure.